I'm Dee Woodward, and welcome to another episode from the Expert Interview Series. And today, joining us, we have fellow creative and lover of great design, Julie Hall. So firstly, thank you very much for joining me today. And just quickly then, for those who don't already know who you are, can you share just a little bit about you? So who you are, what you do, and kind of your big why behind what it is that you do.
So I a very long and convoluted story, but basically I used to have a web design agency. And when I decided I wanted to scale it up, I learned so much. I decided I wanted to share that knowledge. So I created a website called Women Unlimited, which was for women entrepreneurs, teaching them how to market, talking about issues that I thought were quite female in content, just, because we have a lot of stuff we have to deal with outside of running a business quite often. And also, and so ran lots of training courses and workshops. And I recently closed that down and am now really working with people and doing stuff around online marketing. And just before we started this, you were talking about my why. Yeah, so at the moment I'm on a bit of a rant, really, because I see a lot of bullshit out there in the online marketing space, which really winds me up, and want to just create great value, share great value, talk about what's working today, not stuff that was working 3 years ago or 5 years ago. And I'm just providing loads of value around that.
And I love it. And we were just talking before I hit the kind of big record button about saying how it's finding your own way of doing things. And I'm really passionate about finding your own way of doing marketing. And I suppose that's, as you say, the kind of value marketing, rather than following all these amazing experts. And I've got nothing against all of the big gurus out there, all of the people that have made all this great money doing things their way. Brilliant. Take some inspiration from that, sure. But following somebody else's path just means that you're going to be on their path behind them. Really, you need to go and find your own path and figure it out yourself. And your path is where your perfect customers are. So focus on your own stuff, doing things your way in a way that really fits you and reflects who you are.
Exactly.
I love that. And I love that you're on a rant at the moment as well.
It may come out today.
Love it. Happy. We are a very, very pro rant area here. It's fine. Love it. So going back to your summit, what was it then that made you decide to run a summit in the first place?
So I've been wanting to run a summit for a long time. I had actually bought Lisa Sasovich's course about 3 years ago, and because I think it's a great way to build a list quickly. So it's a leapfrog strategy, right? It's a way of creating something that's really high value, of targeting a market of people that you're interested in talking to, and I thought it would be fun. Genuinely, I thought it would be fun. And the thing is, as I said, I'm kind of in this online marketing space, and I wanted to talk to people that were doing things that are working today, not the big gurus, people who made it years ago or been doing this for 7 years, people that are getting great results and have been doing so in the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, because things do, especially in the online world, things change so quickly, and
so
even what worked a month or so ago, with the updates on things in places like on Facebook and social media that happen all the time, what worked even a couple of weeks ago won't necessarily work now. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when it came to kind of planning and coming up with the idea for your summit, where did you really start? What was the first kind of catalyst that made you go, right, okay, this is what I'm going to do? And where did you really kind of decide and make that plans to, okay, this is what's happening, this is where it's going to go?
Yeah, so actually it started with a person. Okay. So there was one of my speakers is a woman called Kimra Luna, and she had been introduced to me by someone in my community. Said, "Oh, you've got to check out this girl, see what she's doing." Right? So she looks like she's about 12, and she's blue hair, and but turns out she's 27 or 28. She's got 3 kids. She does genuinely look like she's 12, though, and she had managed to do a launch where she made $750,000 on her second launch. So she launched her business in May 2014, and before the end of May 2015, she'd made $900,000. And I was like, holy shit, how did she do that? Can I swear?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. I swear when I don't even realise sometimes. So, yeah.
So I was just, and that curiosity became the foundation of the summit, because then I was like, well, okay, so I'm really interested in knowing what she did and how she did it. How can I have a chat with her?
Mm-hmm.
And also, who else is doing really interesting stuff? Who else is getting surprising results that I want to find out about, I want to talk about?
Yeah.
People that are doing, we were talking about, I use the term values-based marketing, right? So people that are doing values-based marketing, not the hypey, overselling, selling stuff that is not value for money, that is just all about getting bums on seats, but stuff that is actually delivering quality and real advice that is useful to people. So that was really the catalyst.
I love that. I like that as a little side strategy of just going, oh, how can I talk to these people that I admire, and I want to find things about them. So I just get to talk to some great people.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely my own customer in that regard.
It's a bit, I suppose, it's kind of what I do with these interviews. I think, if I've met someone, like when I met yourself and I saw that what you've done at the summit, and I was like, that's really interesting. I think there's that will be very interesting to everybody else as well. So let's have a chat. But also, we had such a great time when we did the interview for your summit. I was like, yeah, I want to talk to Julie. Let's get her back on. It would be great fun. So now, you did mention, you said that it is quite a lot of work doing a summit, and I can imagine that it is a lot of work. There's a lot of planning, but there's also a lot of technical bits and pieces, I suppose, that go into it. So was it worth it?
Yes, it was worth it. I can't say that I'm leaping to do another one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but actually, lots of people on the summit have emailed me to say, can't wait for the one next year. So I'm never say never.
No.
And it was a great exercise. It definitely kicked off a new area of activity for me in terms of the things that I'm talking about. And because when I closed Women Unlimited, I was in transition, right? So I wanted to pivot, and doing something like the summit seemed to be a great way for me to position myself in the online marketing space.
Yeah.
And instead of in the women entrepreneur space. So it was a way of being able to do that. I absolutely don't regret doing it. I'll be honest, completely honest, I didn't make much money doing it, so I pretty much broke even, but I did get a list of 1,500 people registered who are genuinely interested in the same stuff that I am. So and it's a fresh list, yeah, which of an engaged audience. It gave me access to new people that haven't come across me before. And the other great thing about a summit, in terms of kind of some of the benefits, is that I did it as video, not just audio, and that was deliberate because I wanted to give people a chance to see me, to get to know me. And then they can decide whether they like me or not, which is, and it's fine if they don't. But if they do, they get to engage and connect with me on every single interview. And that, I think, is really useful.
It is. Video really has a power when it comes to doing things like that. And I think actually, just as well from a kind of a reusing point of view, that if you record video, then if you want to, you can obviously just do audio from it. Whereas if you only do audio, you can't then put a video.
Yes, exactly.
And it's really refreshing to hear your honest viewpoint on the kind of results that you got from it. Because that was going to be one of my questions, really, was what kind of results have you seen since you ran the summit? And that, I suppose, comes into the direct sales from it, which you're saying it broke even, but really I suppose the reach and the positioning is also a real big benefit of having a summit. So what has been kind of the best result that you've had since you run the summit? So
I mean, on the plus side, it definitely it has put me next to some of these people who are fairly big players in the online marketing space. So not the the people that are at the very top, but people that are definitely on their way up. And I had a good rapport, good engagement. They now know who I am. I'm on their radar. So that's good. And, building the list was good. Getting the feedback from people on the content has been amazing. And the feedback that I had really was very, very positive. So very good all round. I made about $5,000, but I probably spent about $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it does swing in roundabouts a little bit. I would say about maybe 1,500 of that spend wasn't completely necessary.
So what were the spends that you had involved in running the summit then?
So I got somebody to help me with my marketing at the end, because the woman that was supposed to be working with me basically made lots of promises and didn't deliver on any of them.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I fired her, and she persuaded me to bring her back, and then I had to fire her again a week later because yes,
twice firing.
I know, right? But in the meantime, I really, you know, this is probably one of my things, but I felt like I had to pay her for some of the conversations that we'd had. So that cost me, I think, about $400. Okay. And I had people help me with my social media and my customer management and the affiliate management stuff. And that wasn't the technical side of it. That was more, I just wanted somebody to be a buffer between those people, just because it was then easier. It was just easier. It just felt easier. But I could have, in hindsight, I think I should have not done that.
Okay.
And also, I didn't leave enough time for the marketing planning. I was so busy on the technical stuff, on editing the videos, on getting the website up, on all those bits and pieces. I should have invested more time early on the marketing and taken more responsibility, I think, for it.
Yeah, always a time thing. There's never enough time, is there? That's one of the big things that always comes back to projects, is allowing more time to do these things, because things always take longer than you expect.
Yeah, well, I genuinely thought I'd left enough time. I would say if anybody's interested in doing a project like this, that they give themselves 3 solid months. Okay. And for the time, and even now I probably couldn't. I probably, you know, it's that perfectionist streak, I think, is it can be sometimes. You know, I probably spent about 80% of my time on the summit solidly for 7 weeks in the lead up to it. Yeah. It's a lot of time.
It is a lot of time. It's a big project. It's not something that you can kind of go, oh, okay, I'm going to go and run a summit tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. But it does position you. Yeah. Other people are able to see what you're doing, and they can enjoy that. And it's, and it does give tremendous value. I mean, I think to be successful in online marketing today, genuinely, you have to figure out how you're going to provide massive value. And writing a 500 word blog post is not enough anymore. No. Right? No. You have to put real effort into your online marketing. So the summit did that. The summit was that Kickstarter for me. And if somebody's looking to have a massive impact in a short period of time, then actually it's probably one of the best ways to do that. Yeah,
I would say it does sound, from a positioning and branding perspective, it's actually one of the biggest kind of catalysts that you can do to really get yourself out there. And I mean, personally, I just loved the look of your summit. It was the first time somebody's come to me to approach me really to be an expert speaker on a place. And I've looked at the pages and the little profile pictures that you sent over, and I was like, yeah, I love it. I have to be involved, because it just was designed beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
But you know, that goes to me that it's all in the design. But I definitely, and I know you completely agree with me on this as well, that visuals play a massive part in your positioning, and in the same way that if you're going to then be using an online summit as a way of positioning yourself as this expert, getting your name out there, you want to do it in a way that really does position you in the best possible light.
Exactly, yeah, because you know, your website is your brand. You know this, right? Your website is your brand. You what is it that you want to project when you're creating something like this? And I think an investment in that upfront piece and in what it looks like is really money well spent.
Definitely. I completely agree with you.
But then we would say that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. But it also doesn't have to be a costly and expensive thing. There are tools, there are resources, there are ways that you can go about doing it and still make things look professional.
Definitely.
Having to kind of fork out on a lot of money.
Yeah.
But so, right, okay, if I decided today that I'm going to go and run a summit because it's a really exciting thing to do, what do I really need to know about creating a successful summit? So what are the things that have come up since you've run one that you would go, okay, look, Dee, if you're going to do this, you really need to think about this first?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is you have to put together a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So start with your end date and work backwards.
Okay.
Now that for me, so I was planning on doing it at the end of September, which was a target I hit. I was going away for the first 2 weeks in August. So this woman that was supposed to be helping me out was going to be doing the communication during that time, and that didn't happen. So basically I started probably about a week before I went, and that was me reaching out, maybe 2 weeks, me reaching out. Now, the thing that surprised me was how long it took to get the speakers on board. And it did take a long time. I was still looking for speakers in August, even though I had a wish list. So make sure you build enough time in that, because each invitation has to be bespoke. You have to really understand why you want somebody on the summit, what's the value they're going to bring. So you know why you want them, but then why do they need you? What are you offering in return? Right? What's the value that you're going to bring them? So being really clear on that. The other thing that I was told is that each person that comes on the summit should have a list of 5,000 people, because the marketing is, I know. Yeah. But here's the thing, that wasn't the case on my summit. That's some people.
I think it's a number though, isn't it? And you kind of go, right, well, somebody with a list of 1.5 or 2,000 that are really highly engaged people, it's going to be much better than having a list of 15,000 people that don't open your emails.
I had a woman on there that had supposedly had a list of 44,000 people.
Wow.
8 people from her email came to my site. 8. So the list is bullshit.
Yeah. Good.
Everybody lies about the size of their list anyway, I think. That's the conclusion I've come to.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's one of those things that you're almost told that you're made to feel, again, in this internet marketing kind of world, that your list is really important, and the money is
everything, right?
And you need a big list and all of this. Yeah. And there's a lot of tactic that goes into building lists. And yes, it's really important to build a list, but it's more important to build an engaged list than it is.
It is. And actually, I this is going off topic a little bit, but I saw Seth Godin in London a couple of days ago.
Okay, I'm gutted I missed that. Somehow I completely missed that he was there. I was like, no, he should have been there.
Yeah. No, he's amazing. He is amazing, genuinely. And his thing is that you need to, when you go into something, when you go into business, you need to decide if you are building a movement or you're building a business.
Okay.
Right? And where we run into trouble is when we try to build a movement and a business. And that's not to say you can't make money out of doing your movement thing, but that your heart has to be in the tribe. When you're building a business, quite often your heart is in the money.
Yeah.
And if you try and make your tribe and your movement about the money, it will never work, because commercializing it corrupts the art. Right?
Very interesting, yes.
I know.
Yes. It's true, yeah.
I love that.
I just love how that's been summed up so kind of quickly and eloquently there, because it's so true. If you think about it, that is.
But this idea that commercialization corrupts the art, I think, is a really powerful one. He's written a great book. I don't have it here. Normally it's in my bookcase, called The Icarus Agenda, which is about choosing yourself, about standing up. And when somebody in the room asked whether or not you can make money from your art, his response was sometimes. Yeah. So there's no false promises there, right?
Yeah.
But you need to be creating
such a variable, because it really depends on who your art, what it is you're doing, how you are about it, and there's so many different variables.
And the thing about creating a movement is that we have a tendency to think big. So there was a guy in the audience that says, I want to teach 1 billion people about personal finance. It was really like that. I mean, honestly, he then kind of went into this whole pitch, and Seth said, I don't care about your billion people.
Yeah.
Right? So when you want to start a movement, you have to start small. You have to figure out what works. And the analogy he uses, how do you tip a village? So start with the village. What's the village? What's the thing, the change that you can make here? What do you need to do? What resonates? What works? And then you move on. When you do that, one, they become your sales force. And also then once you've figured that out, once you've made that connection, once you've created that magic, then you can move on to the next village. But if you try and make the world your village, you're setting yourself up for failure right from the start. Oh, it's really good, isn't it?
It's very good. I think it's interesting. I've seen a lot of people fall into the trap as well of when so you start small and you've got, 2 or 3 people, 10, 15, 20, 30, and you've got your small village, this village. And then you do want to, and you're like, okay, well, I've got it. I've nailed this. Yeah, I'm really passionate. Everyone's get it. Everyone's on board. Everyone knows. I've got this feeling. Brilliant. Okay, so let's move it up. And I think the tendency is sometimes to go from that small to scaling it.
To the entire world instead of kind of thinking.
And then taking it out a little bit. Yeah. And I actually quite like that idea instead of moving almost from village to village. So rather than making your kind of circle bigger, you're actually doing, okay, so we've done it here, we'll do it here. And you just kind of bringing new groups of people on board with you as you grow. And then that you can have a much more kind of personable level of communication with those people rather than trying to jump too big. And then you end up losing a lot of the personality in your...
Exactly. The commercialization corrupts the art. And the thing is people know, right? They know when you are genuinely interested in them. They can sense it. We can sense it a mile off. And I think this is just going to become more and more and more important as time goes on. Seth Godin said it's all that the marketing strategy of today is all about trust and attention. And focus on those things, building that trust and getting people's attention. And when you do it really well, then the tribe builds itself.
Definitely. And it's not trying to, when you get to that tipping point where you want to go bigger, it's remembering to kind of keep yourself small, as it were, slightly, so that you can still have that humble ability to really communicate deeply with people on a one-to-one level. It doesn't have to be one-to-one, but that sense of that feeling of one-to-one, which you can't do when you try and broadcast to too many people.
No, exactly. Start small and let it grow from there. Let it develop. Let the tribe lead you. So it's
we came completely off track then. I'm quite sure where we went off track from. I can't even remember what the question was that I asked you that made us go off on this tangent. I think it was what should I be doing if I choose to run?
Oh yes, to start a summit. Gosh, I really did go off. So this goes back to choosing your speakers, right? So now I know what
I was going to say, this is where we were.
So it's because I decided I wanted speakers on there whose stories I was genuinely interested in, and the size of the list wasn't my motivator. And there's 2 things about that. One, it meant, because if you go to somebody and you say, I want to have you on my summit, I think you're amazing, I think our values are aligned, I love what you're talking about, and how big's your list? And they say 2,000 people, and you say, oh, sorry, I'm not interested. What is that?
You know what, actually,
awkward, horrible is that?
It's interesting you mentioned that. I've been approached. Recently I've been approached by quite a few people to do summits. So I had a bit of an influx there. All of a sudden seemed to be like a space of a couple of weeks where I had a load of emails from people asking me. And yet I can't even remember ever coming into conversation with you about lists or anything like that. And we obviously didn't. But your passion and enthusiasm for what I do, and also your beautifully designed page, made me go, yes, this is what I want to be a part of. And there's one recently that I'm still kind of in talks with, because within the second kind of part of the email, that just came back straight away and was like, okay, so what's your list size? Who are you sending it out to? And that kind of made me go a bit like, oh, well, now I'm not sure do you really want to talk to me, or are you trying to get access to my list?
And do you know what? I mean, I did a summit for a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and it was exactly that. And it leaves you with a slightly icky feeling, right?
It does.
So, I mean, I did ask my speakers to mail out. Yep. Some did, some didn't. And I'm kind of okay with that. Maybe it did mean that my list didn't grow as fast as it could have. Yeah. Going back to that values-based marketing, I could live with myself. I felt good about the relationships I was building. And I can confidently say that none of the speakers that were on that summit came away going, oh, she was just in it for my list.
Yeah. And the people that did share it got to share it because they really wanted to. And I shared it because I really wanted to. I didn't feel like you'd asked once, can you share it? And I was like, yeah, of course. It was a really great interview. I will definitely share it. And there was no kind of feeling of you know, that you had to. It didn't feel like a strategic business plan that was going on somewhere that you kind of do. So I think that's kind of the point. And when you're attracting speakers, is making sure that you kind of get them in a way that they feel it all feels like a mutually beneficial thing, and you're not just tap into a resource. I also, when it comes to, did you find that there was a struggle when it comes to booking speakers and getting people to agree?
No, so I was really smart about this. I had probably I think probably I had about 5 people say no.
Okay.
But they were, real heavy hitters. Everybody else that said yes were people that I was either had a relationship with or was able to leverage other relationships that they had. So this is probably one of the big things I would say is, if you do want to do a summit, it's worth starting to build the relationships now.
Yeah.
Because it's, people do get asked a lot. And I think a lot of the speakers that were on my summit got asked, that probably was maybe part of the trigger for you getting all those requests. Right?
Yeah.
Because what you see is, you see when somebody does it once, you think, oh, that's a great opportunity. Like Kathy Pressland, I don't know if you know Kathy, she's a book writing coach. She said, she just was inundated, and she just said no to all of them because she didn't know them. There was no connection. And so if I didn't know them personally, I would say either somebody had recommended them to me, and I would find, people that they knew, right? So it wouldn't just be, wouldn't just be me kind of bullshitting. Or I would be a student of theirs. I would have taken a course, or I would, kind of engaged or liaised with them, knew them myself. So it's not
finding that kind of common ground where you can actually have a proper conversation with somebody, and there's a real reason behind why you want them to be a guest.
Exactly.
Rather than just going through kind of a hit list and going, oh, these are my ideal people, or just see if we can get.
And I did think about what I wanted people to talk about, because I was crafting a piece of value, right? Yeah. I didn't want to have lots of people that were saying the same thing. I knew I wanted to have a different perspective, a new perspective. So I was really clear with them about what I wanted them to talk about.
Yeah, and that does always help from a speaker's perspective as well. I know that when you get approached by people, it's good to know what it is they want, what they've seen of you, or what it is that they really want you to share, because that also does show that you know a little bit about your speaker and you're actually interested in them, because you already have an idea of who they are and what you want them to talk about. Proves that you actually have studied what they do a little bit and actually know who they are, which helps definitely.
Exactly. So back to kind of what do you need to know. So that's choosing the speakers. That's a really big deal. The other thing I would say is deciding what format you want. So I did video for the exact reason that you mentioned, so that I could convert it to audio. And I also had somebody not transcribe the notes, but actually listen and take notes from listening to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want it just to be a transcription of the conversation. I wanted someone to pick out the highlights. I wanted it to be intelligent. And I found a great woman on People Per Hour.
Brilliant, yeah.
Who has a PhD, and she charged me £23 per interview.
Okay.
So
really
it cost me $5.20 or $5.50, I don't know, somewhere around that altogether, because I ended up paying lots of little invoices along the way. But
that's a really great additional resource then for all of your guests and that are there as well. They get some show notes. They get
exactly. So, and I only gave that was part of my upsell. So that was only available to people that bought the summit. And I did that. Also, because I didn't want to, I edited all my own videos. I used Camtasia, which is not a hard piece of software to use, but there is a learning curve to go through.
Yeah.
But imagine listening to 21 hours of interviews you've just done. Right? I mean, I like technology, but that is my idea of hell. Because each video is going to take about, to my mind, will take about probably an hour and a half to 2 hours to edit.
Yeah, and unless if you get good at it, it can suck your time if you're going to do it.
Absolutely can. So what I said to her, and this was the smartest thing I did in the entire summit, was write a note whenever you hear a mistake.
Okay.
She's a transcriptionist, right? So she's used to putting times in for stuff. So she did, at the top of every piece of notes, she wrote exactly what where the problems were from her perspective as a listener.
Yeah.
And then I was able to just go in and edit each video, which meant that each video took me 15 minutes instead of 2 hours.
Brilliant, because then you don't have to listen through it. You can just go straight to the point. That's great. No, I like that. Yeah.
That is my top summit tip.
Definitely. That's a really, really good tip. I think that's a great tip for if you're doing any kind of video interviews and things like that.
Yes.
Looking at the editing. Now, I must confess, I don't tend to listen back through and edit. I will, so long as I know that the interview's gone well and we haven't had any catastrophes throughout it and there's nothing that I need to kind of edit out, I'll just chop and tell the end, and then that's it. You get the whole interview as it is. But I like I'm kind of intrigued, I suppose, actually a little bit there as well. What kind of things come up as errors and edits that you had to edit out of your summit? What happened?
Well, so I had some trouble with Skype.
Okay,
so there was kind of Skypey bits, blah, 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 so like when people's voices go juddery and stuff. Also, sometimes I would ask something that I'd asked already. Sometimes they would say something and they wouldn't be comfortable with their answer, so we'd take it out.
Okay.
A couple of times I had to restart, but this meant I just didn't have to think about it.
Yeah, so you didn't have to worry about it. You knew that you'd have that time to be able to go through and edit. Yeah,
because I thought my plan was originally to edit each video as I went, right? And that just didn't happen at all. I mean, it just didn't. So being able to do it like that just meant the whole process was much, much simpler and much easier.
That's great. I like that. That's a good tip. And finding people per hour is a great place to be able to find transcribe and people that can transcribe.
Just lots of things. I mean, I had a guy do a piece of coding for me yesterday for my website. It cost me 10 quid.
Wow, that's brilliant.
I know.
I must admit, I've not really looked at it for things like coding and stuff.
No, just really, if you've got a simple piece of, for me, a CSS is not my strong suit. I mean, I can do it, but it's a lot of it's trial and error. I know, right?
Yeah.
But being able to go on somewhere and just say, look, I want this to look like this little piece of Photoshop. You did the CSS, 10 quid later. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, yeah.
Right. So don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money on those things. Choose what you spend on wisely, but definitely you will need some kind of tech support. I mean, I'm quite techie, so that was, I think, to my benefit. So so I didn't have any web costs around doing that stuff other than a couple of little bits and pieces, but so getting somebody on board to help you out with the web stuff, if that's not your forte, is probably going to be an expense that you'll need to add on to it as well. Yeah,
and I think there's just the way that tech stresses, as I like to call them, my tech nows, because there's always some sort of tech now that happens during any kind of thing. It's good to just know that you've got somebody on board, on team, on standby, at least, that they can then really help you out so that you don't have to worry about that technical side of things.
And I decided to pre-record my videos. Lots of people do them live. Because I had a very international speaker list, so I had people in Australia, in America, in the UK, it would have been very difficult for me to have like a 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I think it's easier if everybody's in the same time zone. I've seen somebody else do it basic where she only had one video a day. I was advised by the woman that helped me out, because she is an expert, or didn't help me out, said she was going to help me out. But she said that actually seven days is the optimum time.
Okay.
Because after that, people start to lose interest.
Yeah.
It goes on too long. And And I would agree with that. Think about what you want to do with the list afterwards.
Yes.
So how are you going to engage with them? What are you going to talk to them about? What's the next step? I probably didn't think enough about that. Mm-hmm. I used Facebook ads. That was okay, but I spent a lot of money and I'm not sure I got the return on it. And I think, again, it's because if I had already had an established Facebook ads series of campaigns going on, then I think I could have done a lot better. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have enough time for Facebook to figure out who my audience was.
Yeah, Facebook ads. I've had some great success with Facebook ads. I must admit, I've got my brilliant Emma who does all of my Facebook ads. She's amazing. So I think it's one of those things again where if you've got the time to really look into it and learn it, then great. Especially with Facebook, it changes so quickly.
Yeah.
It's worth paying an expert to really help you with that side of it.
I agree.
When it's something so as big as a summit, you're going to put a lot of time and energy into producing the interviews, going through the whole process. You've got all of these experts coming on board. You've got some really great content that you want to share. Yeah. It's worth investing in making sure that enough people really turn up to be able to see it and engage with it.
Yes, and I think the other thing that I did that I'm really pleased I did was having the Facebook group. Yeah, that was great because people were able to come on. Interestingly, people didn't email me with customer service issues. They went onto the Facebook group. Which was fascinating.
But I suppose it depends as well what your audience is, and because it was an online kind of marketing summit, very much people are quite comfortable with Facebook. And I would ping a message on Facebook as opposed to going into email, just because that's the kind of space that we're in and you're with it. So again, it's thinking about who your customers are when it comes to that side of things, of what kind of support you need in place.
Yeah, so that was really good. I was really pleased with that. I'm just trying to think. I think there was that's probably the kind of main things.
That's great. Well, that's actually, my next question on my list was to ask you is there a checklist of things that you must do when you're thinking about running a summit? But I think we've just gone through pretty much the whole checklist there. That was quite a good step by step. What were any of the kind of big mistakes or things that happened that you've gone, if I was going to do it again, I definitely wouldn't do that again?
So I think I would have definitely been in charge of the marketing plan more than I was. That is probably my one big regret. Okay. I think technically it was great. I'm really glad I did the pre-recorded interviews because I have a perfectionist streak and it allowed me to do it, but it did mean, to make sure that the quality was there, but it did mean that the interview stuff went on much longer.
Yeah.
So, and you'd asked me previously about interviews. I used Acuity scheduling to book the interviews, which meant, so I basically made a 2-week period available and people were able to book into a slot that fit them.
Yeah.
And that worked really well because it meant that I wasn't going back and forth on stuff. And it was, I don't know, it was $10 or something, but it was money really well spent. So
it made it easily and accessible for your speakers then to be able to kind of choose something that fits and suits them, as opposed to trying to fit your schedule. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. The other mistake I made, I would say I wasn't great at managing the team. So I didn't stay on top of it well enough. Both the woman that I ended up firing, but I think even the women that did help me out, they were great, but I wasn't connected enough with what they were doing.
Okay. And do you think that came from not coming back to your kind of the plan, that you didn't have time, you didn't really plan it through?
Exactly.
You didn't know what you wanted them to do, so you couldn't really keep on top.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. And and then big mistakes. And the other big mistake I've mentioned already is not having the clarity on what I wanted to get out of the summit afterwards. So having a clear upsell, a product or something like that, I wasn't clear enough on that.
Of where it's going to lead through, because when we're saying it's brilliant that to use as a catalyst for getting your position in, and it really put you out there, and great, and you've got some really great numbers now onto your list sizes that has increased from it. And keeping people on your list, you need to be engaged, as we talked about having an engaged list. And if you don't have a clear follow-up that's going to happen from it, then all of the effort that you've put into getting those people into your list now, if you go a month or even a couple of weeks without kind of communicating, then they start to go cold from why they were on your list.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So what are you going to do now with your you've done the summit? What's next?
Well, as I said, I'm kind of in rant mode at the moment about online marketing. So I'm seeing my inbox is overflowing with people using scarcity marketing, using guilt-based marketing, using, are you the kind of person that wants to do this, or are you crap and you don't want to do this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
All the NLP-based manipulation that goes on. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call it out. So where I am now is one is having, sort of just talking about what it really takes, because online marketing is so powerful. It's amazing, right? But it needs to be done ethically, I think. There's a whole thing around experts, right? And this is one of my struggles. This is like honest communication. I'm not sharing this with anybody. But, people talk about online marketing and say you just need to be 10% better, right? Or, you're an expert if you're 10% better than your audience. So if you went to have brain surgery and your consultant was 10% better than you at cutting into your brain, no. But, okay, so marketing isn't brain surgery, but we are giving these people thousands of our dollars, right? And if they are not getting great results, or even if they are getting great results, are they really sharing the stuff that works? Yeah. Are you the type of person that can get the same kind of results as them? When you're working with people, are you actually authentically the right person to help them? My struggle with this is that I suffer from imposter syndrome too. And I think women particularly suffer with this. So there is a piece which is actually absolutely owning your value, really understanding and knowing your value, but also making sure that when you're talking about stuff and you're selling stuff, that you really understand it, because it's not enough just to share the stuff that other people are telling you.
Yeah, no, and there's been a massive trend towards that, hasn't there? There's a lot of kind of overnight experts, people who have just replicated something that they've heard from somewhere, had great success with it, brilliant, that's great, but then they've decided that now they're an expert in that area and they're going to teach you how to have the same success, even though they did it once and they got lucky, but there's not really
a book does not make you an expert. No. Watching a video doesn't make you an expert. Doing the stuff, that makes you an expert.
Doing it not just once, doing it not just twice, but doing it a few times and learning.
Learning, growing, figuring out what works. Then you're an expert. Then you can share it.
And I find, I use the term expert interview series for this kind of this selection of videos that I host and people that I invite on, and I must admit that recently I have been going, the term expert, I need to maybe change it, because it's one of those overused terms. And what I really mean when I say that, kind of these experts, because I do believe that everyone has an area of expertise. It doesn't mean that you have to be telling the world that you are an expert, but when you meet people and interviewing yourself, you've got this knowledge and this area of expertise within hosting a summit because you've done it. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to start calling you the summit expert. You're not going to tell people and teach people how to, but you do have an area of expertise. But this has become this overused term especially in the online and internet marketing world, where everyone's calling themselves an expert. And it was guru was around for a long time, but that obviously is now nobody uses that term anymore, and now it's the term expert. So unfortunately these phrases, these terms that really do suit what we do, get overused and become a bit of a makes you
Yeah.
cringe a little bit when you hear it slightly, which is a shame.
It does.
But yeah, I might have to have you back. We might have to do another ranting interview where we can talk about the woes of the internet marketing world and how to actually, again, with how to be authentic. But you can't even say authentic anymore without.
No, that's why I like values-based marketing. It's just, I think, and ultimately, we've talked about this, Dee, but ultimately it is about, if it feels sleazy, mm-hmm. It probably is sleazy.
Yeah. And again, that comes back to, if it doesn't feel right for you, if you're not comfortable doing what you're doing, then don't do it.
And don't do it.
Pulls me back to a couple of years ago, when the first time I ever joined a mastermind group, going back a number of years. And I was told that if I wasn't willing to stand on stage and sell from the stage, then I wasn't going to have a successful business. And I just thought, just because that works for some people, brilliant, great. I have no problem with people that will get up on stage and sell. Wonderful, that's lovely. But that's not me. That's not what I want to do. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to have a successful business.
Don't get me started about selling from stage.
We definitely are going to need some extra video interview time so that we can go. We can probably have one on every single day.
Should we speak monthly, Dee?
Yes. We shall. Brilliant. Right. Well, I mean, I think we've already come to about an hour now. So thank you so much. Now, I always try and end these interviews with one thing that people can take away. So up to you, whether you want to talk about if you're running a successful summit, I couldn't even get my words out there, too many S's, or based on the value-based marketing. So, whichever way you want to go. But what's one thing that everyone can take away from this interview right now and do today and start implementing today to either have a successful summit or to build more value-based marketing?
So I would actually say it will be on both counts, and this is about starting with you, mm-hmm. and starting with being really clear on the value that you want to bring, right? Because when you know the value that you're bringing to the world, then actually the choices are really easy. Mm-hmm. When you make it just about the commercial decisions and you can feel the corruption, that's when you have to really question whether or not it's the right choice for you. So really figure out what it is that you want to bring. What do you stand for? And when you make your choices, whether it's as a summit or in your marketing or your videos or whatever it is, just are you being true to yourself, true to your values, and true to your audience? And if you can do that, mm-hmm. then I think you're onto a winner.
Perfect. I love that. And I wholeheartedly agree. Always start with you. It has to come from you first.
Yeah, has to.
It has to, yeah. And customers, they come after. Start with you. But okay, well, so thank you again so much for joining me today. And it's been an absolute blast, as always. Love talking to you.
Oh, me too, Dee.
Thank you.